Hey everyone, welcome to Author Nation. Today we are going to talk about front matter and back matter because it is so important, and it's something that I see a lot of authors they don't think about it, or they're not quite sure what it is, or they don't know how important it is. They don't know how to use it to their advantage. So I really want to talk about front matter and back matter today. So let's start with front matter. Front matter is everything at the beginning of your book before the main content. So that's the title page. So the title, the ISBN, the author, could be the publisher. There's a variety of information that could be on the title page, and it's that that blank page. It doesn't have a lot of color. It's just the title, the author, the ISBN, the publisher. That's about it. Date of publication, and then there's the dedication page. So you sometimes dedicate a book to someone, and that's usually just one page. To my wonderful, friend, Carrie, or whatever it is. Then there's the table of contents, and this is really, really important. And this is an area where I see some authors make mistakes. So one mistake I see is no table of contents. So have a table of contents. It's really important that your book has a table of contents, because nowadays we're shopping online a lot. So we're not just going to the store and picking up the book and flipping through it. And even then I'd say have a table of contents, but more important that you have it when people are shopping online, because they come and they look at the book and there's that, that little look inside. And so they can click on that. And one of the things they get to see is the table of contents. And so if it's not there, they don't get that overview of the book that is so important in their decision on whether to buy the book or not. So you really do want to have a table of contents. The other thing I see people do is they don't make the table of contents like clear, useful. And so they'll be like nice, fun chapter titles like The Blue Sky and When We Were Young and whatever. Those are not useful. So if you're writing a book that has step-by-step, it's like chapter 1, step 1, this, step 2, that, and the steps. Or if you're talking about, let's say you're talking about a subject matter such as, addiction. And so chapter 1 might be the prevalence of addiction in American society. That's clear on what that chapter is about. Chapter 2 might be the personal side of addiction. And that might be a story about somebody's specific addiction. But you see what I'm saying? It's very clear. It's like, oh, when I open this look inside, when I open it to the table of contents, I can clearly see the contents of the book. I can see the path the book is taking. That makes sense to me. Now I'm interested. So make sure you have a table of contents, and make sure it's clear, and make sure it is useful. So that's the first thing. And then forward. I forgot what I was going to say. You want the forward. Now the forward is written by someone other than the author, and it espouses how wonderful the author is and how wonderful the book is. It used to be written by a well-known colleague, someone who, other people would pick up the book and go, oh yeah, I know that person. Oh, he said good things about this other person. They know each other. I can trust this author. It used to be that way. Now it's not always done that way. And in fact, sometimes they're paid for these days. Just so you can actually pay for a forward. But they basically say, hey, this author is great. The book is great. You should read it. And then the preface is written by the author, and it kind of tells the story about the book, the journey kind of to the book, why it was written, the idea, the process. Now, don't write a preface unless it's actually going to matter to the reader. You don't need to say more. You don't need more pages in your book. Only write a preface if there's really a story to tell, and there's really something interesting that if the reader is going to be interested in it, right? So that's, preface is just if you have something really important to say about the book or the journey to the book, right? That will be relevant to the reader. It's not just to be verbose and to have extra things to say. Okay, and next, the introduction. And just like the table of contents, this is vital. You really need a good introduction. Whenever I'm working with authors, I always say, write the introduction last. Now, not to say before you write the book, you can't write an introduction to get it in your mind, like what you think is going to happen and where you think this book is going. But if you do that, that's great. But always come back to it in the end, because often the introduction doesn't make sense once the book's actually written. So what should the introduction do? The introduction, let's think of it as a treasure map. It's like a teaser for what's to come. So someone is handing you a treasure map, and there is treasure somewhere on this map. And they show you this path you're going to get to the map. There's this beautiful waterfalls over here. There's this mountain you're going to climb. There's a wise man who's going to give you a clue. And it's this beautiful journey to get to this treasure, this thing you really want. That's what an introduction does. It lays out a path for the reader. It may have a few sentences or a chapter may have a few sentences or a paragraph for each chapter. So, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and it may talk about the chapters and what's in them, the goals of the chapters, the outcomes for the readers, the features of the chapter, whether it's, a case study or sidebars or quizzes or whatever you have. It may talk about the features that will help the reader learn and, learn and acquire, not just learn on a surface level, but really deeply learn the content. So that's the introduction. Give them a glimpse into their own future. Do not make the introduction verbose. It can be short, make it clear, make it direct, but make it exciting and make it interesting. Because that's what, again, people are going to look at in the, look inside, and they're going to see, oh yeah, this looks really cool. Yeah, I love this. There are stories and case studies and quizzes and journal ideas for journals or whatever it is that's going to entice your particular reader. So think about why your book is an exciting book, why your book leads people through this wonderful path to this treasure, and explain that all in your introduction, because that is your introduction. And that is your front matter. The two most important pieces, I believe, of your front matter are your table of contents and your introduction. Those are the two things that when I'm shopping online and I find a book and I do that look inside thing, I'm looking at the table of contents because it gives me an overview, a really fast, scannable overview. And when those chapter titles aren't useful, that doesn't help me. And then the introduction, where it kind of lays out the book. And if it's a good introduction and it gets me excited, then I'm more likely to buy the book. Of course, there are pieces that you can get after that, and that's fine. Whatever you're going to see, you want to make sure that's super exciting. But those two are definitely in the front matter and in the, look inside this book section. So you want to really focus on those so that the reader knows what they're going to get and it entices them. They're excited about it. Okay, let's talk about back matter. Back matter is everything at the back of the book after the main content. And what do we have here? We have the conclusion. I'll come back to that. We have about the author. So it might be, lives in Maine with 2 dogs and 3 goats, whatever. You can have your kudos and bragging rights in the about the author. It might have other books. So if you've published other books, you can list out all your other books. You can do that in the front matter too. But, it's good for the back matter. It could have about the publisher. If it makes sense to have publishing information, it could have that. Can have an epilogue. So especially in books like memoirs, right? It ends at a certain point, but this person has written this book, 30 years later. And so sometimes there's an epilogue, just a little bit of a, an updated story for the readers about that particular author and their life. It could have a glossary. If your book is a little bit technical and you can't get away from using certain words, you might have a glossary at the end of the book that people can refer to as they're reading it so that they're not constantly looking up in the dictionary, and they also get your definition and you can then agree on the words in that case, right? It could have an index. I notice a lot of books don't have indexes, and I think because indexing can be quite expensive. But if you have a book that an index is going to really matter and somebody's going to buy it. So think about it this way. I look at a book, it's like, is this a book I should, should I buy it? Should maybe I just, borrow it from the library, get it from a friend, maybe buy it and get rid of it. And then it goes to somebody else and they don't have to buy it. versus a book that has a lot of useful information in it. And all that information is really easy to find because there's a great index. And so instead of getting rid of it or just borrowing it, I keep it on my bookshelf and I use it and I refer back to it. And it's on my mind more often, and I'm more likely to refer it out to people. So if it's the kind of book that people are going to come back to time and time again and keep on their shelves and obviously buy and recommend, then an index, spending the money on the index, that's like a really great idea. Resources, I'm going to come back to that again. Sources. So if in writing this book, you've read journal articles or studies or other books or watched TED Talks or any other video online and you want to list your sources, you can do that at the end of the book. And appendices. Now, appendices can have things like your glossary and your resources. That's just kind of like extra information that could be useful, but that didn't fit in the main content of the book because it didn't flow or for whatever reason, right? So, okay, let's go back and look at our conclusion. So when you get to your conclusion, they've finished the book and you want to wrap it up. You want to refer back to the treasure map and say, hey, you now have your treasure. You now have what you need. You have the tools to take that next step. You have, give them a glimpse into their own future. You have, you know what you need to know. You're feeling what you need to feel, right? You've learned what you need to learn. You are this different person now, or can be this different person now if you take these steps. And with that, let them know how to reach out to you. It's like, look, yes, I wrote this book because I want to change lives. And I also have courses or I coach or whatever. And here's my website. Here's my email. Here's my social media, whatever. Most people don't finish a book. So if they've finished the book, they are cheerleaders. They love you. Give them that extra, here's how to get in touch with me. Here's how to come to my mastermind. Here's how to do whatever it is that you do for people. Give them that opportunity to stay in touch and to continue to connect with you. So the conclusion refers back to the map. It talks about all the exciting things that they've seen along the way. It reminds them of the growth that they've had. It tells them that they can take that next step. They make them excited about that next step. You may even give them that next step. And you may also say, this is how you get a hold of me. This is how we connect so that we can continue this relationship, this reader-author relationship, or shift it into coach-client or whatever. And then resources. If you have a set of resources, if you have workbooks, a tool book, worksheets, fun journals to download, whatever it is you happen to have, templates, whatever you have, put them in the resources. And that's another great way. If you have a website and one of the things you're trying to do with your book is bring people from the book to your website, that's a great way to lead them from the book to the website. And you don't have to they don't all have to be in the resources. You can have them throughout the chapters as well. But even if you have them throughout the chapters, I recommend that in the back, you have a list of the resources, chapter 1 resources, chapter 2 resources, chapter 3 resources. It's just so much easier for the reader. It's like, oh yeah, they have this resources page. I'll just hit there because, I want these resources, but I have to go to chapter 1. I have to go to chapter 2. I have to go to that's a lot of work, right? I don't really want to do that. So as an author, make connecting with you, make going to your website, make downloading your resources really easy by having a resources section in the back of the book, if that's what you have, right? Does that make sense? I hope so. In both your front matter and back matter, remember, you are talking to a real person, an individual who is looking for something from you. They want to connect with you. They want to connect with the content of your book. And so speak to that person. Don't speak to readers in general, a group of people, right? Go back to the video on developing a reader persona. I will put the link in the description if you need help with that. Go watch that and develop this one person you're writing to, because it makes such a difference, right? So let's just summarize. You need your front and back matter. the front matter is really important because it is what potential readers see when they do that look inside option. So create front matter that is interesting, create front matter that is exciting, that is enticing, so that people want to buy the entire book and download it or take it home with them or have it delivered or however they're getting it, because they want to become someone. They want to be able to do something. They want to learn something. They want to know something. They want to feel something. Front matter is what gives the reader incentive to keep going throughout the book. And then the back matter is your opportunity to keep that relationship going outside of the book, on social media, on your website. Let them know what that next step is so that they can take that next step and stay connected to you. So when you're writing your book and you get to the point of front matter and back matter, I know you've worked really hard to get this book done and it's exhausting. Don't let go right yet, right? It's like, oh, I did the main part and it was so tired. I know I have clients, they're just so exhausted at the end of it. It's like, yeah, that's great, but you've done all this really hard work. Make that final push to make front matter that is exciting and enticing and interesting, and that back matter that speaks to that person and continues that relationship. That's it. Next week, we're going to be talking about how to revise your book before you send it off to a professional developmental editor. I will see you next week. Bye.